I'll never forget that sound, the cold shuffle of nurses' shoes echoing down the hallway, the steady beeping of the machines, and that whisper that sliced right through my heart. Hide. And trust me, the nurse said. I didn't even know her name. I just remember her eyes, wide, terrified, and her hand trembling as she pushed me behind the door of the next room. My son was fighting for his life in the bed across the hall, tubes everywhere, his body barely moving. But the nurse looked more scared than me. And then I saw him. The man in the white coat leaned over Marcus's bed, holding a syringe. He looked around once, and whispered something I'll never forget. She can't know his wife paid us for this. That's when my whole body froze. My son's wife. What did she pay them for? Before I could move, before I could breathe, the nurse turned back to me and mouthed just one word. Wait. I pressed my hand against the wall, my knees shaking. The world tilted, and for a moment, I thought I'd faint. I came here praying to save my son. Now I was hiding from the people who were supposed to save him. They say a mother always feels when something is wrong with her child. That morning, before the call came, I'd felt it deep in my bones, that strange heaviness that won't let you rest. The sun had just started to rise over Atlanta, painting the kitchen walls gold. I was making breakfast, humming along to Mahalia Jackson, when the phone rang. Unknown number. Normally, I wouldn't pick up, but something told me to. Mrs. Johnson, a voice said, shaky, out of breath. This is Grady Memorial Hospital. Your son's been in an accident. You need to come right away. My heart dropped. An accident? What kind of accident? Is he alive? He's alive, the nurse said quickly. But he's in critical condition. Please drive safely. Drive safely. As if that was even possible when your whole world just cracked open. I barely remember the drive. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. Every red light felt like a curse. Every turn felt too slow. All I could do was whisper prayers under my breath. Lord, please don't take my baby. Please, not Marcus. He was my only child. My miracle boy. After his father left, it had just been the two of us. Me working double shifts as a social worker, him sitting in the corner doing homework, always promising, one day, Mama, I'll make sure you never have to worry again. He kept that promise, too. Marcus was 28 now, smart, gentle, generous. But lately, something had changed. He'd married Maya 2 years ago, a woman who walked in with soft smiles and quiet words. At first, I'd welcomed her with open arms. She seemed sweet, too sweet. Then slowly, she started pulling him away from me. Missed calls. Cancelled visits. Cold silences that stretched weeks long. And every time I saw him, his eyes looked a little dimmer, like something was eating at him from the inside. Still, I never thought I'd be driving to a hospital to see him like this. When I arrived, the air hit me like ice. Hospitals always smelled the same, disinfectant, fear, and something else you can't quite name. I rushed to the front desk. My son, Marcus Johnson, was just brought in. Please, I need to see him. The young receptionist looked up, startled. Visiting hours haven't started. That's my child, I said, voice trembling. Please. Before she could answer, a tall woman in scrubs stepped out from a side hallway. Her name tag said E. Wright, RN. She looked at me with sharp, knowing eyes. You're Mrs. Johnson, she asked. Yes. I'm his mother. She nodded slowly. Come with me. Something in her tone made me uneasy. We walked down the hall, her pace brisk, her shoulders tight. The walls were lined with soft yellow lights, but everything felt cold and heavy. Finally, we reached a set of double doors with a sign that read ICU authorized personnel only. She paused, looked around, then turned to me. Please, she whispered, whatever happens, don't make a sound. I frowned. What are you talking about? I just want to see my son. She didn't let me finish. Her eyes darted toward the glass window. Someone's inside with him right now, she said quietly. You need to hide. Behind that door. Now. I stared at her, confused, my pulse pounding. Hide. Why would I? Please, she said again, her voice cracking. Just trust me. And something in the way she said it, the fear in her tone, made me move without thinking. She guided me behind the observation room door, only a few feet from the ICU window. I crouched down, pressing my ear to the cold wall. From there, I could see the reflection of my son's bed. His body lay motionless under a tangle of wires and tubes. A man in a white coat leaned over him, adjusting something on the 4-line. The nurse slipped out, leaving me frozen, alone. My breath felt like fire in my chest. That's when I heard it. The man's voice, low, calm, deliberate. She can't know his wife paid us for this. Finish the job. Make it look natural. My heart slammed against my ribs. His wife. Maya. Every sound in that hallway seemed to vanish. The machine beeped once, twice, then steadied again. I pressed my hand to my mouth, trying not to scream. Had I really heard that right? Was my son's wife, the woman I'd welcomed into my home, into our family, trying to kill him? Footsteps echoed. I ducked lower, trembling. The nurse returned, her face pale. She whispered through the cracked door, "Don't move. They'll be gone in a minute." I could barely breathe. Every second felt like an hour. And in that silence, one thought kept pounding in my head. If Maya was behind this, then my son wasn't the only one in danger. I used to think evil wore a face you could recognize. That you could feel it in your gut when someone meant you harm. But standing there, hiding behind that hospital door, I realized, sometimes evil wears a wedding ring. Sometimes it smiles at your table, saying grace beside you. And as I watched the man in the white coat walk away, leaving my son still and pale beneath those hospital lights, I whispered to myself, "Lord, show me the truth. Because I think I just stepped into a nightmare, and it's wearing my daughter-in-law's name." I stayed hidden in that hospital corridor for what felt like hours, though it was probably only 10 minutes. By the time the hallway cleared, my knees had gone numb and my faith was hanging by a thread. The nurse slipped back into the room, her hands trembling as she closed the blinds. "Mrs. Johnson," she whispered, "they're gone now. You can come out." I stepped into the light, my throat dry. Who were they? What did he mean, "My son's wife paid you"? Her eyes darted toward the security camera in the corner. "I can't talk here. Not yet. If anyone asks, you didn't see me, all right?" I nodded slowly, but my heart was already racing. She left without another word, leaving me staring through the glass at Marcus. He looked so still. My baby boy, barely breathing, chest rising just enough to prove he was still fighting. And all I could think was why? Why would Maya do this? The first time I met Maya, she came into my home carrying flowers. Lilies. White, soft, and smelling like heaven. Marcus had that look, like a man trying too hard to make his mama proud. "Mama, this is Maya," he'd said, grinning ear to ear. "The one I told you about." She was polite. Too polite. Every sentence started with yes, and every smile felt rehearsed. But I wanted to believe my son had found love. After all those years of watching him pour himself into work, I was just happy he wasn't alone anymore. For the first few months, everything seemed perfect. She'd call me Mom, bring me homemade peach cobbler, ask about my church choir. Marcus seemed lighter, happier. But then small things started changing. He'd cancel our Sunday dinners. He'd say, "Maya's not feeling well, Mama," or "We're just busy this weekend." Then came the day he asked about my house, my home I'd paid for brick by brick. "Mama," he said one evening, "you ever think about putting the house in both our names? Just in case something happens?" I remember laughing. "Something like what, baby?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You know, for inheritance stuff. Maya worries, she says you shouldn't be handling finances alone." That was the first time I saw it, the shadow behind his smile. I told him gently, "Sweetheart, I done handled my life alone longer than you've been alive. You tell that wife of yours not to worry about my will." He laughed, but there was tension in it. And from that day on, Maya barely spoke to me. A few months later, I started noticing other things. Marcus stopped calling me before bedtime like he used to. He skipped my birthday dinner, said Maya had the flu. When he finally came by, His wrist had a bruise. I asked what happened. He said he'd tripped on the stairs. But I saw how Maya's hand tightened on his shoulder when he spoke, as if reminding him to stay quiet. One night I couldn't sleep. Something told me to call him. When he answered, his voice was hushed. "Mama, I can't talk long. Maya's asleep." But in the background, I heard glass breaking. Then the line went dead. That's when I started praying harder than I ever had before. Standing there in the ICU, all those memories came rushing back. The forced smiles. The sudden distance. The bruises. It all added up now. Maya had been planning something for a long time. A door creaked behind me. I turned, startled, to see the nurse again. She looked pale, like she hadn't slept in days. "My name's Evelyn," she said quietly. "I shouldn't be talking to you. But I can't let this go on." "Go on?" I asked. "You tell me right now what's happening to my son." She took a deep breath. "Your daughter-in-law came here earlier this morning, before you arrived. She told the doctor she had authorization for some end-of-life decisions. She said your son had signed papers." I frowned. "Papers? What papers?" She claimed he'd requested a do not resuscitate order. But when I checked, the signatures didn't match. I told the doctor something felt off. That's when she slipped him an envelope. I saw cash inside. My stomach turned. "Are you telling me the doctor took money to?" Evelyn nodded slowly. "That's why I stopped you. I couldn't let them finish whatever they were planning." The walls started spinning. I gripped the railing beside me just to stay upright. "How much time do we have?" I asked. She glanced toward the monitors. "Not long. They'll be back. You need to act fast, but don't confront her here." "Not yet. If you make noise, they'll shut you out." I looked through the glass again at Marcus, lying so still under those white sheets. "My baby didn't deserve this," I whispered. "He trusted her." Evelyn's voice softened. "I know. But we can get proof. I've seen her type before." When I left the hospital later that afternoon, the world felt strange, like the air itself had turned heavy. Outside, the sky was darkening, rain clouds rolling in over the Atlanta skyline. I sat in my car, hands shaking on the steering wheel, staring at my own reflection. There was a time I'd have called Maya family. Now I didn't even know what to call her. I thought back to the night before the wedding. Marcus had asked me, "Mama, you sure you're okay with this?" I'd smiled through tears and said, "As long as she loves you, baby, that's all that matters." But love had nothing to do with what she wanted. Money. That's what Evelyn said she overheard, the talk about policies, transfers, shared accounts. And now I realized, if Marcus died, everything he owned, including the new business, the life insurance plan, would go straight to her. And when I was gone, she'd get my house, too. The thought made my stomach twist. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat on the edge of my bed with the lamp burning low, staring at the photo of Marcus on my nightstand. He was smiling, holding a fishing pole from our first trip together. I traced the glass with my thumb and whispered, "Mama's gonna fix this, baby. I promise." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. It read, "Be careful who you trust. Cameras don't catch everything." No name. No reply when I called back. Just silence. I knew then that whatever Maya started wasn't over. And if she wanted to finish what she began, she'd have to go through me first. The next morning, I went back to the hospital before sunrise. Evelyn met me by the side entrance, eyes red from crying. "They moved your son to a private room," she whispered. "Doctor says it's for observation, but I think it's so no one can see what they're doing." She handed me a small flash drive. "This has a recording from last night. Audio from the ICU camera feed. It's not much, but you'll hear enough." I clutched it like it was holy scripture. "Thank you, baby. You don't know what this means." She gave me a sad smile. "Just promise me one thing. Whatever you hear on that tape, don't face her alone." I nodded, though deep down, I already knew I would. Because when it comes to a mother's child, fear don't matter. Right and wrong don't matter. Only love and revenge. As I walked back through those hospital doors, my heart steadying, one thought burned in my mind. Maya might have fooled my son. But she picked the wrong mother to mess with. And somewhere down that cold hallway, the machines kept beeping, soft and steady, like a heartbeat reminding me, this war had just begun. The next morning broke with the kind of silence that felt wrong. No birds, no car horns, just the low hum of the hospital generator outside the window. Renee sat in the visitor's chair, her back aching, her hands trembling around a half-finished cup of cold coffee. She hadn't slept a minute. Every time her eyes closed, she saw Marcus's face on that hospital bed, motionless, pale, and surrounded by machines that beeped like distant alarms. The doctor had promised she could see him once they finished another round of stabilization. But the words from last night wouldn't leave her head. She can't know his wife paid us for this. Those words had sunk deep, like a thorn she couldn't pull out. Renee's mind raced. Could they really be talking about my Marcus? Could her daughter-in-law, Alicia, have anything to do with this? No, she refused to believe it. Alicia had been kind when she joined the family. Quiet, polite, always smiling. But then again, even snakes know how to slither softly before they bite. A sudden knock at the door startled her. It was Alicia. "Good morning, Mom," Alicia said sweetly, stepping in with a bouquet of lilies. Her perfume filled the small room before her presence did. "I thought these would brighten the place up." Renee forced a smile. "He'll like that," she murmured, taking the flowers. "How's your night been?" "Oh, I slept just fine." Alicia's voice was too casual, too relaxed. "I trust the doctors here. Marcus is in good hands." Good hands. Those two words stabbed deeper than Alicia could imagine. Renee's eyes flicked to the nurse's station across the hall. The same nurse from last night, Lara, was there, carefully avoiding eye contact. Alicia placed her handbag on the table and began arranging the flowers in a vase. "I was thinking," she said softly, "once Marcus wakes up, maybe we can move him to the city. Better specialists there. You know, I could handle the bank accounts and paperwork while you rest. You've done so much already." Renee's heart skipped. "The bank accounts?" she asked slowly. Alicia smiled, her hand steady as she fixed a petal. "Well, just to make things smoother. Marcus and I had already talked about merging finances. You know, for the future." It was subtle, but there it was. The faint gleam in Alicia's eyes when she said merging finances. Renee felt her throat tighten. She excused herself, saying she needed a walk. Once outside, she found Lara by the vending machine. "Miss," Renee whispered, "what you said last night, was it about my son?" Lara froze. Her eyes darted to the security camera above them. Please, you shouldn't be asking this here. Please." Renee's voice broke. "If you know something, anything, here's all I have." Lara hesitated, her jaw trembling. Then she spoke, voice barely above a breath. "They told us to keep him sedated longer than necessary. The chart said his vitals were stable, but Dr. Patel kept insisting we delay the transfer. The woman, your daughter-in-law, came by after midnight and signed additional papers. I didn't read them, but something felt off." Renee's stomach dropped. She gripped the vending machine to keep herself upright. "Papers? What kind?" "Insurance forms, I think. And a request for early claim verification." Lara looked around again. "Please, I've already said too much. If they find out." Renee caught her hand. "Don't worry, sweetheart. You've done the right thing." As Lara walked away, Renee's mind spun faster than the hospital ceiling fan. Insurance. Claim verification. All signed after Marcus's so-called accident. It didn't make sense, unless someone was preparing for him not to make it. When she returned to the room, Alicia was on the phone. Her voice was low, but the tone was sharp, businesslike. "Yes, I said transfer it now. The longer we wait, the more complications arise." Pause. "No, she doesn't suspect anything. She's just an old woman grieving." Renee stopped in the doorway. Her breath hitched, her pulse thundered in her ears. She wanted to storm in and snatch the phone, but she forced herself to stay calm. She quietly stepped backward until the corner wall shielded her. She took out her own phone and pressed record. Alicia continued, pacing by the window. Once the report is finalized, I'll move him to private care. Then, we'll let nature take its course. Her words sliced through the air like glass. Let nature take its course. That was the moment the fog of grief burned away. In its place, a mother's fury began to rise. When Alicia hung up, Renee walked in, pretending she'd just arrived. Who are you talking to, dear? Oh, just the insurance agent, Alicia replied smoothly. So many procedures, you know. Complicated stuff. Renee smiled faintly. You're handling it well. Marcus is lucky. Thank you. Alicia's tone was syrupy, but her eyes darted toward the phone on the table. She quickly turned the screen face down. Renee's hand itched to grab it, but she didn't. Not yet. That night, Renee didn't go home. She asked Lara for a blanket and sat by Marcus's bedside. The monitors beeped softly, steady but weak. She brushed a strand of hair from his forehead. Baby, she whispered, if you can hear me, you fight. You hear me? You fight for your mama. Tears pooled in her eyes. She reached into her purse and took out the little recorder app. She replayed the short clip of Alicia's call. The voice was faint but clear enough. It wasn't solid proof, but it was a start. Hours later, footsteps echoed down the hallway. Quiet, deliberate. Renee opened her eyes slightly. Alicia was back. Dressed in a dark coat, she moved like a shadow. She went straight to the 4-line, glancing at the door, then pulled a small vial from her bag. Renee's blood ran cold. No, no, please no. Alicia began attaching the vial to the drip, her hands trembling slightly. Then she leaned close to Marcus's ear and whispered something Renee couldn't hear, but she saw Alicia smile. A smile that could freeze the sun. Renee couldn't stay still any longer. She jumped up. Alicia. What are you doing? Alicia spun around, eyes wide. Mom. You scared me. What is that? Renee pointed at the vial. It's vitamins. The doctor said he needed. Don't lie to me. Renee's voice cracked like thunder. I heard you on the phone. I know what you've done. Alicia froze for half a second, then smiled again, softly this time. You don't have any proof. Renee snatched the recorder from her purse and hit play. Alicia's own words filled the room. She doesn't suspect anything. She's just an old woman grieving. For the first time, Alicia's smile faltered. You recorded me? Damn right I did, Renee spat, her tears falling freely now. You tried to kill my son. You think I'd sit and watch? The nurse burst into the room, alerted by the shouting. Alicia dropped the vial and bolted toward the door, but 2 security guards appeared almost instantly, blocking her path. Lara ran to the 4-line, inspecting it. Her face went pale. This isn't vitamins, she said shakily. It's a paralytic. Renee felt her knees buckle. The room blurred. Her son, her baby, so close to death, and all because of the woman he trusted most. Alicia screamed as the guards grabbed her. You'll regret this. You old fool, you'll lose everything. But Renee didn't hear the rest. She was at Marcus's side, holding his limp hand. It's over, sweetheart, she whispered. Mama's here. The sirens outside wailed as police cars arrived. Nurses rushed in and out, voices overlapping. But in that chaos, Renee felt something change. The steady beeping on the monitor grew stronger, steadier. Marcus's eyelids fluttered. He was fighting. Renee bowed her head and sobbed. For the first time in weeks, they weren't tears of despair, they were tears of relief. The nightmare was far from over. The police would need statements, and Alicia's web of lies would take time to unravel. But Renee had faced the shadow behind the smile, and she'd survived it. Outside the window, dawn was breaking, faint gold streaking across the sky. Renee squeezed her son's hand and whispered, "We'll rebuild, baby. One breath at a time." And this time, she meant every word. The next few hours unfolded like a fever dream. Sirens wailed, officers stormed the hospital wing, and flashes of blue light danced across the white walls. Renee sat quietly in the corner, clutching Marcus's hand while the world around her turned into noise. The paramedics checked his fours, the detectives questioned nurses, and Alicia's shrill voice echoed down the hall as she protested her arrest. "I didn't do anything. You have no proof. She's lying." But Renee didn't respond. She was too tired, too hollow. 4 years, she had worried about her son's heart, his career, his happiness, but never once did she imagine she'd have to worry about his wife trying to end his life. When the officers finally left with Alicia in handcuffs, Renee stood in the doorway and watched. Alicia's eyes met hers one last time, cold, sharp, but afraid. She spat out, "He loved me more than he ever loved you." Renee didn't answer. She didn't have to. She just whispered under her breath, "That's why you killed him." And as Alicia was led away, the hallway fell silent again. Only the hum of the machines and the soft beeping of Marcus's monitor remained. By morning, Marcus had been transferred to the intensive recovery ward. The doctors, now under investigation, avoided Renee's gaze. Only Lara, the nurse who had risked her job to tell the truth, came to sit with her during those long hours. They took the vials for testing, Lara said quietly, her voice trembling. "It's definitely poison, something that causes cardiac arrest but leaves almost no trace." Renee nodded numbly. "How did she even?" "She used her position," Lara said, looking down. "She bribed the doctor. Turns out, this isn't the first case he's been linked to." Renee stared at the linoleum floor, every nerve in her body burning. "So they almost got away with it." "Almost," Lara whispered. "Because you were here." That evening, the detectives returned. A middle-aged man with kind eyes introduced himself as Detective Harris. "We've confirmed most of what you told us," he said, flipping open a notebook. "We found evidence of multiple forged documents in your son's name, and 2 insurance policies with your daughter-in-law listed as the sole beneficiary." Renee felt a chill crawl up her spine. "And the doctor?" "He's in custody," Harris said. "We believe she paid him a significant amount for the accident report and to tamper with your son's care." Renee's throat went dry. "What happens now?" "Well," Harris sighed, "now it's about proving intent. We'll need you to testify. We've also subpoenaed her phone records. Your recording helps, believe me, but we'll need more to secure conviction." Renee looked through the glass window at her son, still unconscious, but breathing. "You'll have it," she said softly. "I'll give you everything you need." Days turned into weeks. Marcus remained in a fragile coma, his brain slowly recovering. Renee never left his side. She read to him, prayed with him, told him stories from his childhood about how he used to chase butterflies in their old backyard and how he once promised never to let anyone hurt her. She kept that promise for him now. Sometimes at night, she'd walk the empty hospital corridors, her reflection flickering in the windows. Every face she passed reminded her of trust, how easily it can be broken, and how deeply it can wound. One night, Lara approached her, holding an envelope. "This came through internal mail. It's from Alicia's lawyer." Renee frowned and opened it slowly. Inside was a single letter in Alicia's handwriting. The words were cold, deliberate. "You think you won, but you destroyed everything. Marcus was never yours to keep. He was mine. Even if I die in prison, you'll live knowing he chose me." Renee crumpled the letter and whispered, "You never knew what love was." She tossed it into the trash and never looked back. A month later, the courtroom was silent as Renee took the stand. Alicia sat across from her, wearing a grey jumpsuit, her once perfect hair now dull and tied back. Her lawyer whispered something, but Alicia didn't look up. Renee adjusted the microphone and began to speak. Her voice was calm, steady, almost too calm. "She came into our home as family. I trusted her. I treated her like my own daughter. I thought she loved my son. But love doesn't steal, doesn't poison, doesn't destroy." Her eyes flicked to Alicia. She saw our kindness as weakness. But she forgot, mothers don't give up. We fight. The courtroom was still. Even the judge leaned forward slightly. "She wanted his life insurance, his accounts, our home," Renee continued. "But she took something far more valuable, our peace. And for that, she'll answer to more than just the law. She'll answer to God. The defense objected, but the judge allowed her to finish. When she stepped down from the stand, she felt something shift inside her. Not triumph, no, not that. It was something quieter. Closure. Weeks later, the verdict came. Guilty. Alicia was sentenced to 25 years in prison without parole. The doctor received 12. Laura's testimony and Renee's recording had sealed their fate. When the gavel struck, Renee didn't cry. She simply closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you." Marcus woke up 2 days later. The first word he said was "Mom." Renee ran to his bedside, grabbing his hand. Tears spilled down her cheeks before she could stop them. "Oh, baby, you're here. You're safe now." His voice was weak, fragile. "Alicia, where is she?" Renee hesitated, brushing his hair softly. "She's gone, sweetheart. She can't hurt us anymore." He closed his eyes, and a tear slid down his cheek. "I loved her." "I know," Renee whispered. "That's what made you human. Don't ever be ashamed of loving. Be ashamed of not seeing the truth sooner." He nodded weakly. And for the first time in months, he managed a faint smile. When they finally left the hospital, the world outside felt different. Cleaner, colder, real. The wind carried the scent of rain, and the city lights shimmered like broken promises. As they walked to the car, Marcus leaned on her shoulder. "What now, Mom?" Renee looked up at the sky. "Now we start over. You heal, I rest. And we let time do what it's supposed to." He smiled faintly. "And if I can't forgive her?" Renee squeezed his hand. "Then forgive yourself first. The rest will follow." Weeks passed. The house grew quiet again, but not lonely. Renee filled it with music, sunlight, and prayer. She planted new flowers in the garden, the same lilies Alicia once brought, but now, they meant something different. They meant survival. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Marcus joined her on the porch, still weak but walking. He said, "You know, I heard your voice while I was in the coma." She turned, surprised. "You did?" He nodded slowly. "You told me to fight. That's why I came back." Renee smiled through her tears. A mother's voice always finds her child, no matter how far he drifts. They sat together in silence, watching the light fade into evening. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed, a reminder that evil still existed, but in that small house, peace had returned. And as the screen of the story faded to black, Renee's voice lingered in the air, soft, powerful, and eternal. "They thought they could silence me. They thought they could bury the truth with lies. But I am still here. Because love, real love, outlives the dark." 6 months had passed since that night in the hospital. Summer had come and gone, and the air now carried the smell of autumn, crisp, cool, and honest. Renee sat on the porch, watching the leaves fall from the old oak tree Marcus used to climb as a boy. He was stronger now, walking without his cane, slowly rebuilding his life. The doctors said it was a miracle he'd survived at all. Renee called it prayer. But even miracles leave shadows behind. And one of those shadows still lived in a prison cell an hour outside Atlanta. That morning, a letter arrived, plain envelope, no return address. Inside was a folded note written in Alicia's careful, looping handwriting. "I don't expect forgiveness. But I need you to hear me out. There are things you don't know. Please visit me. Alicia." Renee stared at the paper for a long time. Every word felt heavy, soaked in guilt and desperation. She almost tore it up, almost. But something inside her said she needed to look this pain in the face one last time, not for Alicia's sake, but for her own. The next morning, she drove to the Georgia Women's Correctional Facility, her hands steady on the wheel. The sky was low and gray, and the road stretched endlessly ahead, quiet, empty, like a confession waiting to be spoken. At the security checkpoint, an officer checked her ID and led her through a series of doors until they reached the visitation room. Cold. Sterile. Too white. Too bright. And there she was, Alicia. Her once flawless hair now cropped short, her face thinner, older, eyes sunken with regret. But even in that orange jumpsuit, There was still a trace of the woman who once smiled at her dinner table, serving cornbread and sweet tea like she belonged. "Mrs. Johnson," Alicia said softly. Her voice cracked. "You came." Renee sat down slowly. "You asked me to." For a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them was thick, almost alive. Then Alicia leaned forward, tears filling her eyes. "I know you hate me," she began. "And you should. I don't even know who I was anymore. But I swear to you, it didn't start like this." Renee's voice was calm, but cold. "Go on." Alicia took a shaky breath. "When I met Marcus, he was everything I ever wanted. Kind. Patient. But I grew up poor, you know that. My mama always told me love doesn't pay bills. And when Marcus started that new job, I thought, finally, we can breathe." Her voice faltered. "Then he started talking about helping you. Paying off your house. Sending you on that trip you always dreamed of. And I got jealous. I felt like I was never enough. That his heart still belonged to you." Renee's expression didn't change. "So you decided to end his life. That's how you deal with jealousy." Alicia wiped her eyes. "It wasn't supposed to go that far. I swear. I just wanted him to get hurt enough to slow down, to need me again. The doctor said he could adjust the dosage. I didn't think. Renee interrupted. Her voice sharpened like glass. "You didn't think you were taking someone's son from his mother? You didn't think what it'd do to him, to me?" Alicia broke. Her shoulders shook as she cried, her hands clutching the edge of the table. "I see it every night, Mrs. Johnson. In my dreams. Him lying there, not moving. And your face when you saw me in court. I see it all." Renee sat back, her eyes heavy with both anger and sorrow. "You were right about one thing, Alicia. I did hate you. I hated you for stealing his trust, for twisting his love into a weapon. But hate eats you alive if you hold it too long." She leaned forward, voice low, steady. "I came here to tell you, I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I do." Alicia froze. "You forgive me?" "I do," Renee said softly. "But don't mistake forgiveness for forgetting. You'll serve your time. You'll live with what you did. But you won't take another day of peace from me or my son." Alicia's tears fell freely now, and for the first time, there was no defiance in her face, just a hollow acceptance. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "For everything." Renee nodded once. "Be better in here. God's still watching." She stood, turned, and walked out. The heavy door clanged shut behind her, loud, final, absolute. Outside, the sky had cleared. Sunlight poured through the clouds in thin golden rays. Renee stood for a moment, breathing it in, letting it warm her face. She whispered, "It's done." As she got into her car, her phone buzzed. It was Marcus. "Hey, Ma," he said, voice light, hopeful. "Where you at?" "Nowhere important," she smiled. "Just finishing something I should have done a long time ago." "You sound lighter," he said. "I am." When she got home, Marcus was on the porch waiting with 2 cups of coffee. He handed her one, smiling that same boyish smile she thought she'd lost forever. "Doctor cleared me to go back to work," he said proudly. She laughed softly. "That's good, baby. But don't rush it. You've got time." "I know," he said. Then, after a pause, "Did you go see her?" Renee looked out at the horizon. "Yes." "What did you say?" "Everything I needed to." She sipped her coffee and smiled faintly. "And nothing more." Marcus nodded, his eyes glistening. "You always told me forgiveness was power." Renee looked at him lovingly. "It is. Because when you forgive, you take back what they tried to steal, your peace." They sat together, the evening sun painting their faces in gold. The cicadas hummed in the trees, and somewhere a church bell rang in the distance. The world felt still again, fragile, but beautiful. Later that night, Renee wrote one last letter. Not to Alicia, but to herself. "Dear me. You survived the storm. You faced the devil in daylight and didn't lose your soul. You raised a son who still believes in love. And no matter how dark it gets, you are the light. Ah. She folded the letter and tucked it inside her Bible, next to the verse she'd clung to through it all. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Then she turned out the light, lay back, and closed her eyes. The house was quiet, the air gentle. And for the first time in years, Renee slept, not with fear, not with pain, but with peace. If you were in my place, her voice lingered as the screen faded to black. Would you forgive the one who tried to destroy your family? Or would you let that hate live inside you forever? Tell me below, because sometimes forgiveness is the hardest revenge of all. The house had gone quiet again. But not the quiet of peace, no. This was that strange, heavy silence that wraps around you like fog, that makes every creak sound like a whisper, every shadow like it's watching you. For days, Marcus hadn't spoken to me. He stayed locked in his room, blinds drawn, living off cold pizza and whiskey. And Amelia, that woman I once called my daughter-in-law, she had started walking around the house as if she already owned it. I'd wake up some nights and hear her heels clicking through the hallway at 2 a.m., pausing right outside my door. She never knocked. Just stood there, listening. Like a wolf waiting for her prey to breathe wrong. And I had started to write everything down. Every word she said, every receipt I found, every whisper I overheard on her phone. Because something told me, one day, I'd have to prove it all. That night, a storm rolled in. Rain hit the windows in thin angry sheets, lightning flashed across the sky, and somewhere in the distance, thunder groaned like an old man's warning. I was sitting by the window with my cup of tea when I heard it, voices. Low, tense, coming from Marcus's room. I crept closer, the floorboards moaning under my feet. Marcus's voice, broken, desperate. Amelia, you said it was just a small insurance plan. You said it was nothing serious. And then her voice, cold, sharp as glass. Don't be stupid, Marcus. Do you think money just falls from the sky? Everything I've done for us. For our future. He sounded smaller than I'd ever heard him. You forged my mother's signature. You made her look like she's the problem. You told them she was losing her mind. Amelia's tone shifted, quieter now, darker. Because she is the problem, Marcus. Don't you see? She's the reason we're drowning in debt. Her house, her name, her money, all locked away, doing nothing. You're too blind to see she's dragging you down. My knees nearly gave out. I pressed my hand to the doorframe, trying to keep quiet, trying not to scream. My own child, the one I raised with everything I had, was standing there while that woman spoke about my death like it was a business decision. Then Amelia's voice softened, almost sweet. Baby, once she's gone, we'll finally be free. You'll have the company, the accounts, the house, everything your father's hard work built. You deserve that. We deserve that. There was a long silence. And then Marcus said, his voice trembling, almost whispering. You said the same thing about Dad. For a moment, everything froze. Even the thunder outside seemed to stop and listen. Amelia's breath caught. What do you mean? Marcus's voice cracked. I found the pills. The ones you were giving him for his headaches. I found the text messages. You told that man, that lawyer, that once Dad was gone, you'd finally have enough. Then came the sound of a slap. A loud, sharp crack that sliced through the storm. I flinched, and before I even knew it, I pushed the door open. Enough. I shouted. Marcus turned, eyes wide. Amelia froze, hand still raised midair. Renee, she said, voice trembling, you shouldn't. Don't Renee me. I spat. I heard everything. Every filthy lie you've told. Every trap you set in this house. Marcus looked between us, tears gathering in his eyes. Mama, please. I stepped closer, pointing at her. You think love means control? That marriage means murder? You think you can take everything from me, from him, and walk away clean? Amelia's face changed. Gone was the frightened daughter-in-law. What stood before me was something else. Calm, cold, reptilian. Mrs. Johnson, she said slowly, you're tired. You've been under so much stress. Maybe you should sit down before you hurt yourself. It was the same tone you'd use for a child. The same tone she used when she told the neighbors I was confused. When she planted the idea that I was losing my mind. My hand shook, but I didn't back away. You can gaslight the world, Amelia, I said, but you will not gaslight me. And then, Marcus spoke. His voice was small, broken. Mom. I think we need to call the police. For a moment, her mask cracked. Her lips parted, her eyes widened just slightly. Then she smiled. You really think anyone's going to believe your mother didn't just imagine this, she whispered. She's been leaving notes around the house. She's been taking her old anxiety pills. She's paranoid, Marcus. I made sure of that. My stomach dropped. That's when I realized, she had already built the story. Weeks of whispering, fake doctor visits, prescriptions refilled under my name, every piece of it ready to make me look crazy. But she didn't count on one thing. I walked over to my purse on the table, pulled out my phone, and pressed play. Her voice filled the room, that same recording I'd made days ago when she confessed her plan to move things along with Marcus's mother. Word for word. Crystal clear. Her face went white. Marcus stumbled back. Oh my God. I took a deep breath. Now the police will believe me. Amelia's mouth opened, but no sound came out. And for the first time since she walked into this house, she looked afraid. Then, a crash. The lightning hit somewhere close, the lights flickered, and in that moment of darkness, Amelia lunged for me. We both screamed. The phone flew from my hand, hit the floor, skidding under the table. Marcus grabbed her arm, yelling, "Stop! Stop it!" But she twisted, clawing, shouting through her teeth, "You think you can ruin me? You think?" Her words broke into a scream as she slipped, her head hitting the corner of the table. The sound was dull, sickening. For a moment, the only sound in the room was the rain. Marcus froze. I stood there shaking, staring at her motionless body on the floor. Call 911, I whispered. He didn't move. He just stared at me, eyes wide, filled with something between horror and relief. And when he finally spoke, his voice was so soft I almost missed it. "She was going to do it, Mom," he said. "She was going to kill you." I looked down at her, at the woman who had smiled at my table, hugged me on my birthday, called me Mama, and now lay there like the silence itself had swallowed her whole. And somewhere deep inside me, beneath the fear, beneath the shaking, was a strange, terrible calm. Because I knew, this wasn't the end of it. No. This was only the beginning. The rain had stopped by morning. But inside that house, everything still felt wet, soaked in guilt, in fear, in silence. Amelia's body had been taken away hours ago, zipped in a bag that swallowed the last of her lies. The police cars were gone, the flashing lights had faded, but their echo still burned behind my eyes. I sat on the couch, my hands wrapped around a blanket I couldn't feel. Marcus sat across from me, his head buried in his palms. The faint smell of blood and bleach lingered in the air, and for the first time since the night began, I wished the thunder would come back. Because at least thunder sounds alive. The detective, a tall woman with cold eyes and a tighter bun than judgment itself, had told me, "Mrs. Johnson, please don't leave town until we've completed the full investigation." I just nodded. But the way she looked at me, like she was trying to decide whether to pity me or suspect me, it made my skin crawl. Marcus hadn't spoken a word since. Every time I looked at him, I saw the little boy he used to be, the boy who'd once cried over breaking a toy, now sitting in a house broken by truth. The sun had barely climbed when the first knock came. 3 slow raps against the front door. Marcus and I both froze. I opened it to find Detective Reyes again, her black coat dripping from the drizzle outside. "Mrs. Johnson," she said, voice steady, "we need to go over the timeline once more." I nodded, moving aside. She stepped in, taking notes before she even sat down. "According to your statement," she began, "there was an altercation between you and your daughter-in-law. You claim it was self-defense." "I don't claim it," I said quietly. "It's the truth." She looked up, pen paused midair. "And your son, he corroborates this?" I glanced at Marcus. He was staring out the window, jaw tight, eyes hollow. Marcus? I whispered. He didn't answer. Detective Reyes leaned back. We'll need his written statement too. Preferably today. When she finally left, the house felt heavier. Marcus stood up, pacing, running his hands through his hair. She's not going to believe us, he muttered. She thinks we planned it. Marcus. She thinks I did it, Mom. His voice cracked, loud, raw. Do you understand what that means? I touched her, I tried to stop her, and when she fell, my fingerprints were all over her. I stood, reaching for him. Baby, listen to me. The truth. He cut me off, shaking his head. The truth doesn't matter if they already made up their story. And right then, I understood what he meant. Because somewhere out there, Amelia's version of events still existed, in messages, emails, whispers to neighbors. The story of the unstable mother-in-law, the paranoid widow, the woman who snapped. She had built her lies so carefully that even in death, they kept working. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house moaned under the weight of memories. Every corner still smelled like her perfume, lavender and deceit. And then, around midnight, the second knock came. This one was softer. Hesitant. I opened the door to find Nurse Wright standing there, the same woman who'd warned me at the hospital weeks ago. She looked nervous, eyes darting behind her. Mrs. Johnson, she whispered, can I come in? I let her in, heart pounding. She clutched her purse tight. I shouldn't even be here. But I saw the news. I heard about what happened. I nodded slowly. You said something back then, you told me to hide. Why? She swallowed hard. Because Amelia came to the hospital before your son's accident. She met with a doctor there. Paid him to alter some of Marcus's toxicology reports. To make it look like he'd been drinking before the crash. I felt my stomach turn. But he wasn't. No, he wasn't. But it made the insurance company hesitate on his payout. And that gave her leverage. She told them you were hiding money, using your son's condition to delay payments. My breath hitched. She was setting us up even then. The nurse nodded. I tried to warn you. But she was always 3 steps ahead. Marcus appeared in the hallway, pale and shaken. So even Dad's death, even my accident. Nurse Wright looked down. She wanted control. Everything traced back to her. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the rain starting again, slow and steady against the window. When she left, Marcus turned to me. Mom, we have to leave this house. I stared at him. What are you saying? She's dead, but her lies aren't. People are already talking, the neighbors, the police. Every time I walk outside, they look at me like I'm guilty. He was right. Rumors had already started spreading. And when lies grow legs, truth can't catch up. We packed a few things. Old photographs, my father's Bible, a stack of letters I couldn't bear to throw away. Marcus loaded the car, hands trembling the whole time. As I stood by the doorway, I looked back, at the house that had been my home, my safety, my graveyard of secrets. And I said, almost to myself, she may be gone, but she still owns the silence here. We drove for hours, through the night, through the rain, until the city lights were nothing but a blur in the rearview mirror. Marcus didn't speak. I didn't either. Sometimes silence says everything. By the time dawn broke, we were deep in the countryside, miles away from Atlanta. A small motel by the highway became our refuge. Marcus collapsed onto the bed, eyes hollow. And I sat by the window again, just like that morning weeks ago when this nightmare began. But this time, the phone rang again. I picked it up, expecting a wrong number. But the voice on the other end was calm, professional, and terrifyingly familiar. Mrs. Johnson, said Detective Reyes, we've reviewed new evidence from your home. We need you and your son to come back immediately. I swallowed hard. What evidence? She paused. A voice recording. Someone sent it anonymously. It's a conversation between your son and Amelia, one that doesn't match your statement. My blood ran cold. Because I knew exactly what she meant. The recording, the one I made, had been edited. Someone had taken my proof and turned it into something else. I looked over at Marcus. He was staring at me, his face unreadable. And for the first time, I felt that same old chill I once felt in that hospital hallway, the feeling that not everyone around me was who they claimed to be. "Detective," I said slowly, "can you send me that file?" "I'm afraid not," she replied. "We'll play it for you when you arrive." When I hung up, Marcus finally spoke. "Mom, what did she mean?" I stared out the window. The rain had stopped again, and in the grey light of morning, our reflections looked like strangers. "She meant," I said quietly, "that the truth still isn't finished with us." Morning crept through the motel blinds like it didn't want to be there. The air smelled of old coffee and rain. Marcus was still asleep, but his face twitched, nightmares tugging at him the way guilt does when it finds a soft spot to bite. I sat in the armchair, clutching my phone, waiting for that call to come again. Every minute felt like another stone pressing down on my chest. Because if that recording was real, or worse, twisted, then somebody was still out there, moving the pieces we thought were buried with Amelia. When the phone finally rang, I jumped. "Mrs. Johnson," Detective Reyes said, her voice flat. "We've verified the file's source. It came from a private email server registered to an attorney named Charles Evans. Do you know him?" My heart stopped. "Yes," I whispered. "He was Amelia's lawyer. Handled all her inheritance documents." "Then I'd suggest you and your son come in today," she said. "Before this gets any uglier." The line went dead. Marcus stirred as I gathered our things. "What happened?" he mumbled, eyes still heavy. "They found a tape," I said. "Your voice is on it." He frowned. "My voice? Saying what?" "I don't know yet. But we're going back." He rubbed his temples. "Mom. I didn't." "I know," I cut in. "But we need to prove it." We drove back toward Atlanta in silence. Every billboard, every gas station, every gray mile felt like a countdown. At the precinct, Detective Reyes met us in a small interview room. A digital recorder sat on the table, waiting like a weapon that didn't need bullets. "Before we start," she said, "I need to advise you both that this session is being recorded." She pressed play. The first voice was unmistakably Marcus's, calm, confident, almost cold. "Once she's gone, the house is ours. She won't fight back, she never does." Then Amelia's voice, smooth as silk wrapped around poison. "Good. And after the funeral, we'll move the funds. I'll handle his mother later." The recording clicked off. I felt sick. It sounded exactly like him, every breath, every hesitation. But I knew that conversation never happened. Marcus slammed his hands on the table. "That's not me. That's not my voice." Detective Reyes didn't flinch. "It's your tone, your cadence. We had it analyzed, no sign of tampering." I leaned forward. "Then they analyzed the wrong thing. That woman had files, backups, lawyers. You think this ends with her death? She built this to keep working after she was gone." Reyes eyed me carefully. "Mrs. Johnson, unless you can prove that, your son could be charged with conspiracy." My throat burned. Conspiracy to do what? To be tricked? To be loved by the wrong woman? The detective sighed, slid a folder across the table, and left us alone to think. But all I could think about was one question: how did Amelia's lawyer still have power over us? Outside the room, through the glass, I saw Detective Reyes whispering to another officer. Then my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "If you want to clear your son, meet me where it began. Room 217, County General." Alone. I stared at it until the words blurred. "Marcus," I whispered, "stay here. Don't follow me." "Mom." I said stay. There was something about that message, something that smelled like both danger and truth. County General looked the same as it had that night. Cold hallways, humming lights, the scent of bleach and secrets. Room 217 was at the far end. I pushed the door open slowly. Inside sat Nurse Wright. Her hands shook as she packed up a small suitcase. "You?" I gasped. "You sent the message?" She nodded, eyes darting to the door. I didn't know who else to trust. "You were at my house that night," I said. "You warned me. Why reach out now?" She took a breath that sounded like confession. Because they're going to pin this on Marcus. The lawyer, Evans, he's cleaning up Amelia's accounts. He used hospital recordings of Marcus visiting after his crash to build that fake conversation. AI software. Paid for months ago. I felt my blood run cold. She planned her revenge from the grave. Nurse Wright nodded. She wanted him blamed if anything happened to her. And Evans, he's cashing in on the chaos. He gets a cut from her trust once the family's declared unfit. How do we stop it? She reached into her purse and pulled out a flash drive. Everything's here, her emails, payment logs, voice model files. I copied them before I resigned. Why help me? I asked softly. Her eyes glistened. Because Amelia ruined my brother the same way. Different name, same scheme. I couldn't save him. Maybe I can save yours. Before I could thank her, footsteps echoed down the hallway. 2 men in suits, one of them unmistakably Charles Evans. Wright's face turned white. Go. Now. I ran, clutching the flash drive. The sound of shoes chasing me down that sterile corridor made every heartbeat louder. I ducked into a supply closet, pressed my back against the door, and held my breath. Through the crack, I saw Evans pause outside, phone to his ear. She's got the drive, he hissed. Yes, the mother. I'll take care of it. He walked away, leaving the echo of those words behind. When I finally stepped out, the hallway was empty again, like nothing had ever happened. Back at the car, Marcus was waiting, panic written all over him. Where were you? They were about to arrest me. I handed him the flash drive. This is how we fight. He plugged it into his laptop, scrolling through file after file, digital receipts, encrypted messages, audio files labeled Marcus_model_V1 and Amelia_script_final. He looked up at me, eyes wide. She really did it. She built fake versions of us. I nodded. And we're going to use her own ghost to free you. We drove straight back to the station, demanded to see Detective Reyes, and played the evidence. For the first time since this nightmare began, I saw doubt flicker in her eyes, a crack in that wall of skepticism. These files prove intent, she said slowly. We'll run a forensic check. If it holds up, your son's cleared. Marcus exhaled, shoulders sagging with relief. But I wasn't done. What about Evans? I asked. Reyes frowned. If what you're saying is true, he'll be charged too. But people like him always have escape routes. I looked her dead in the eye. Then I'll be his dead end. That night, back at the motel, I couldn't sleep. The rain had stopped again, but I could still hear it, phantom drops tapping against the glass. I thought about Amelia, how she'd orchestrated every move, even her own downfall. And I thought about my son, how close he'd come to losing everything, not by his own hand, but by love twisted into hate. Marcus came to the doorway, quiet. Mom, thank you, he said. For not giving up on me. I smiled faintly. A mother's love don't need proof, baby. But sometimes the world does. He nodded, turned off the light, and went back to bed. I stayed up watching the sky lighten through the blinds, the flash drive still on the nightstand beside me, a tiny piece of truth in a world full of lies. And just as dawn broke, my phone buzzed one last time. A new message. No name. No number. You may have won this round, Renee. But the game isn't over. They always say once the police clear your name, you can breathe again. But whoever said that never met the kind of devil that hides behind a desk. 3 days had passed since Detective Reyes told us the forensics matched. The fake recording, the forged documents, all traced back to Charles Evans. Marcus was free. Free on paper, anyway. In real life, people still looked at us sideways at the grocery store. Whispers followed us down every aisle. And at night, I'd wake to the sound of Marcus pacing the floor, whispering Amelia's name like he was still arguing with her ghost. I thought I'd feel relief when this ended. Instead, I felt unfinished. That's when I decided I wasn't waiting for the law to fix what the law had ignored. I was going to end it myself. I started where every lie leaves a footprint, in money. Evans's office sat downtown, top floor, glass walls that looked over the city like a king surveying land he didn't earn. I dressed in black and grey, plain enough to disappear. Told Marcus I needed some air, that I was heading to church. It wasn't a total lie. Vengeance is its own kind of prayer. At the reception desk, a young woman smiled. "Do you have an appointment, "Yes," I said, flashing my calmest smile. "Tell Mr. Evans Renee Johnson is here about her late daughter-in-law's trust fund." Her eyes widened. She picked up the phone, whispered, then waved me through. Evans's office smelled of cedar and arrogance. He looked exactly how I remembered, expensive suit, hair slicked back, smile sharpened to a blade. "Mrs. Johnson," he said smoothly, standing. "I didn't expect you so soon." "I bet you didn't." I sat, folding my hands. "Detective Reyes says your name's all over Amelia's files." He chuckled softly. "Detectives say many things. But paperwork, that's my domain. And mine is spotless." He slid a folder across the desk. Inside were copies of legal letters, trust revisions, insurance statements, all signed neatly, Amelia's elegant handwriting looping through every page. But one signature caught my eye. Mine. "You forged this," I said. "Did I?" he asked, leaning back. "Or did Amelia convince you to sign things you forgot about?" My pulse pounded. "She's gone, Mr. Evans. It's over." His smile didn't falter. "Oh, Mrs. Johnson, people like us don't disappear. We diversify." I stood, voice low. "You built an empire off dead families." He shrugged. "The living are messy. The dead don't argue." When I turned to leave, he added softly, "Careful how you walk, Paper trails burn both ways." That night, I told Marcus everything. He wanted to storm the place, fists first, logic later. But I'd already learned, anger only feeds men like Evans. Instead, I went back to the nurse. She still had access to the hospital billing systems. Together, we traced the payments Amelia made before her death, a chain of deposits leading to shell companies, and finally, to an account under Evans Consulting LLC in the Cayman Islands. I printed every page, every timestamp. The nurse looked at me, trembling. "If he finds out you took these." "He already warned me," I said. "Now I just need to warn him back." 2 nights later, I waited outside his office. Rain again. Always rain when truth comes calling. He stayed late, his light the only one left on the 22nd floor. I rode the elevator up, heart beating slow and heavy. The hallway was quiet, the kind of quiet that begs you to turn around. I didn't. When I pushed open his door, he looked up, startled. "Mrs. Johnson." "Save it." I dropped the envelope of papers on his desk. "That's every transfer, every forgery, every stolen cent. And I've already sent copies to the detective." His jaw tightened. "You think you scare me with paperwork?" "No," I said softly. "But fear isn't my weapon. Truth is." He stood, stepping closer. "You don't have the full picture, Renee. Amelia wasn't the only one involved. There are partners. Investors. People who can make you vanish." I met his stare. "Then they'll have to find me in the light, because I'm done hiding." For a second, we just stood there, the woman he underestimated and the man who built his castle out of other people's graves. Then he smirked. "You've just signed your own obituary." "Maybe," I said, turning to leave. "But at least I wrote it myself." By dawn, I was back home, soaked to the bone, shaking. Marcus waited at the kitchen table, eyes wide. "Mom, where were you?" "I finished it," I said. "The detective will have everything by morning." He grabbed my hand. "You shouldn't have gone alone." I smiled faintly. Some wars a mother has to fight without witnesses. The next day, the police raided Evans's firm. Files, drives, everything seized. But by the time they reached his penthouse, he was gone. Vanished. Left behind a note typed on plain paper. "Some truths are too expensive to own. C. Detective Reyes called that afternoon. "We'll find him," she said. "But you should disappear for a while." His powerful, and his angry. I thanked her, hung up, and stared out the window. Rain again, tapping like fingers on a coffin lid. That evening, Marcus came home with 2 bus tickets. "Let's start over," he said. "New city. New life." I looked at him, my son, alive but scarred. Maybe that was the best ending we could ask for. We packed light, left the house key under the mat. As we pulled away, I watched our old home shrink in the mirror, the porch light still glowing like it was trying to remember us. Miles later, at a gas station, my phone buzzed. No name. No number. Running doesn't end the game, Renee. It just resets the board. I stared at the screen, the words swimming in the glow. Then I deleted the message, powered off the phone, and whispered, "Let the devil play alone." Marcus asked, "Mom, you okay?" I smiled faintly. "I will be. As long as you're breathing, I will be." He reached over, squeezed my hand. And for the first time in months, I saw something in his face I hadn't seen since he was a child, peace trying to find its way back. The highway stretched ahead, endless and gray. Behind us, the past kept whispering, but it was fading, softer with each mile. And somewhere between one raindrop and the next, I realized, maybe justice isn't what you win in court. Maybe it's what you carry when the world stops believing you but you keep standing anyway. They say time heals all wounds. But what they don't tell you is that some wounds don't want to be healed. They just want to be understood. It had been 6 months since Marcus and I left everything behind. We lived in a small coastal town now, the kind where mornings smelled like salt and forgiveness, and the ocean waves sounded like they were washing away old sins. We rented a small house near the water. Marcus found work at a mechanic's shop. And I spent my mornings tending a garden that refused to grow, and my nights listening to the wind like it might bring me answers. But even in peace, ghosts don't stay quiet. One evening, the postman left a plain brown envelope. No return address. Inside, a single photograph. Charles Evans, standing in front of a casino in Macau, champagne glass raised, smile wide. Behind him, a woman's silhouette blurred by light, but I'd know that curve of her jaw anywhere. Amelia. I dropped the photo. No. It couldn't be. She was dead. I saw her buried. I placed the flowers myself. But the photo was recent, time-stamped 2 months ago. I sat on the porch till the sun went down, staring at the sea. For the first time in months, my peace cracked open. Not from fear. From confusion. If Amelia was alive, then what had we been running from? What had Marcus suffered for? That night, I didn't sleep. I kept replaying it, her voice, her plans, her betrayal. Then another thought hit me like lightning. If she was alive, then maybe Evans wasn't the monster behind it all. Maybe he was just another pawn. The next morning, I called Detective Reyes. Her tone was soft but cautious. "Renee, I was about to call you. We found something." "What?" "Evans is dead. Drowned offshore near Singapore. But the locals say he wasn't alone when he boarded the yacht." "Who was with him?" A pause. "A woman. Name used was Lila Martin. But her passport photo." She exhaled. "Renee, it's Amelia." I gripped the phone till my knuckles whitened. "She's alive." "She was, until last week," Reyes said quietly. "Body never recovered. The yacht burned." I closed my eyes. "So it's over?" Reyes hesitated. "If you believe in endings, yes." 4 days, I couldn't stop thinking. If Amelia lived this long, what did she want? Revenge? Money? Or just freedom from everything she'd become? Marcus found me one night by the shore, staring at the horizon again. "Mom," he said softly, "you have to stop looking for ghosts." I smiled faintly. "They keep finding me, baby." He knelt beside me. "She's gone. Evans too. We're safe now." "Safe," I repeated, tasting the word like something foreign. "Do you believe we deserve it?" He looked at me, tears glinting. "After everything you did for me, you deserve peace more than anyone." I didn't answer. Because peace isn't something you deserve. It's something you earn, and sometimes it costs everything. Weeks later, the garden finally bloomed. Little white lilies, stubborn and pure. I took it as a sign, not forgiveness, but endurance. Then, one morning, I went to water them, and found a small USB drive sitting on the porch rail. No note. Just a black flash drive, dusty from the sea breeze. I took it inside, plugged it into my old laptop. A single file appeared. Name, for Renee. I hesitated, then clicked. The video opened with static. Then, her face. Amelia. Her hair longer now, eyes tired, but that same controlled calm that once fooled us all. If you're seeing this, she began, voice trembling, it means the sea took me before Evans could. I know what I did can't be forgiven, but you deserve the truth. I sat frozen, tears rising. I never meant to destroy Marcus, she said. But I was drowning long before that night. Evans found me when I was desperate. He promised me freedom, money, escape from debts I couldn't pay. I thought I was saving us both. I was wrong. She looked down, breathing hard. He made me fake my death. Said it was the only way to erase the evidence. But I couldn't live with it. Every night I saw your face, both of you. The only people who ever really tried to love me. She looked up again, eyes shimmering. So I did what I could. The money, it's gone. Burned it. He'll never hurt another family again. Tell Marcus I'm sorry. Tell him I loved him once, even if I didn't deserve to. The screen flickered. Then went black. I just sat there, staring. No anger. No relief. Just the sound of waves outside, like applause for the end of a long, broken play. That night, I buried the USB drive under the lilies. Marcus asked what it was. Nothing, I said. Just the past, finally resting. He nodded, though I saw the question still lingering behind his eyes. We stood there together, under a sky that looked like it had run out of stars. He whispered, "You ever wonder why it all happened?" I looked at him. Because love without truth always ends in fire. Months passed. The sea grew calmer. The whispers in my head quieter. One evening, as I watched the sunset, a local boy rode by on his bike, waving. "Evening, Miss Renee." I smiled. "Evening, child." And in that moment, I realized, that was the first time someone had said my name in peace, not pity. The world moves on. It always does. But scars, they don't vanish. They just learn how to breathe again. Now, sometimes, when I tell this story to the younger women in town, the ones who think betrayal can't reach their doorstep, I end it with the same words every time. Evil doesn't always wear horns. Sometimes, it wears a smile and asks for your signature. They always nod, half understanding. But someday, they'll know. Because truth isn't something you inherit. It's something you survive. And as for me, I'm not angry anymore. Not at Amelia. Not even at Evans. Because in the end, they both drowned in the same sea they built with their lies. But me, I learned to swim.